Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
Yeah, there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
World.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the wildest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they transpired today? I'm Sarah Sahagian.
And I'm Steph Hassan, and this week is another, you guessed it, hot off the press. That's when we do a little episode where we dissect the craziest headlines preoccupying us right now. I'm going to run through a few quickies. Sarah, you give me your thoughts as we go. Okay, so first up, a fun one, a really big one for a lot of Lord of the Rings fans. Ian McKellen says Gandalf and Frodo will return in Andy Serkis's new Lord of the Rings movie called The Hunt for Gollum. Now, this doesn't mean anything to me, but for a lot of fans have been going absolutely nuts. He didn't say if that means he or Elijah Wood will be back, but I think he was implying that. I think that's very, very likely. The movie doesn't come out until 2027. Sarah, are you a LOTR fan?
No, I'm not, but I am a fan of Andy Serkis because he is an Armenian king. He's an Armenian king. And
yes, he is. He is.
So, like Alexis Ohanian. So I stan Andy and his journey. So good for him. No, I don't really like Lord of the Rings. I think it's excellent. If you like that sort of thing, I think it's super well done. And I'm so happy for people who like it. But it's just one of those things where it's like, you got your favorite flavor of ice cream and some ice creams, not for you, right? It's like, I don't like pistachio ice cream, but I understand it can be excellent. I don't know. Are you a fan?
I love pistachio ice cream, yes. But Andy Serkis, Armenian king. Yes, he is, and he deserves an Oscar. And if this is his chance to get one, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Okay, really shifting gears here. Here's a little bit of other news, baby news, actually. Janet Duggar, the eldest daughter of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, is pregnant with her first child. This is making massive waves online. Why? Because she is their eldest, and all of their daughters have been really knocking them out. That's what this family does. If you don't already know, they became famous for relentlessly giving birth, including to a noted pedophile. And they were on the TLC series 19 Kids and Counting. So even with the cameras gone, they're still going at it, guys. It's wild. And I have more good movie news, because we really are in an era of remakes. After years of fan questions and speculation, it's finally confirmed there will be a new Scary Movie bringing back original stars Regina Hall and Anna Faris with the Wayans brothers behind the camera once again. It's been almost 20 years, I think. That's set to hit theaters in 2026. That'll be pretty fun to bring back Regina and Anna together, I think. Sarah, were you a Scary Movie girl?
No, but I did see them. Definitely didn't everyone. I think we were generationally obligated. I saw the first one in Picton. That was my first time in Prince Edward County, and I really recommend Picton as a destination. But so I really enjoy just the fact that they're, coming back. They're still having fun here. Like, it's not really my flavor of comedy, but it's something that typically has been dominated by young men. So I like seeing two women who are in their prime, but not necessarily in their 20s or teens, coming back and doing this gross out humor. Good for them. Like, let's break down boundaries.
I also just have to say, because I love Regina and Anna so much, and I feel like it's going to be so fun to see them together. And Anna Faris should really have a way better career. This is one of the hills I will die on. So
yeah,
I'm glad she's going to have this. Okay, let's dive into our first big headline. You know what it's going to be. It's the biggest probably of the month. Taylor Swift announced her new album, her 12th album, last week, titled The Life of a Showgirl. She made the announcement during a very highly watched episode of the New Heights podcast, hosted by, of course, her boyfriend Travis Kelce and his brother Jason. And by the way, Travis is also currently on the cover of GQ looking a bit ridiculous. That is some serious integrated marketing, the way that they have planned all of this. Because they definitely planned it, guys. This is no coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
The album is slated for release on October 3rd, 2025, so just a couple months away. And of course, fans quickly noted that that date alone adds up to Taylor's favorite number, 13. Big groan. I'm sorry, big groan. But anyway, the cover features Taylor in a glamorous cabaret-inspired showgirl look with artwork styled by Mert and Marcus, who are incredible. She's got a variation of covers, of course. And as is often the case when Taylor goes sexy, it just looks unconvincing to me, kind of forced. We'll link to the covers in the show notes, but I'm sure you've all seen them already. Let's talk about the album itself, though. It was produced by her longtime collaborators, Max Martin and Shellback. So, we're going to get the same kind of thing all over again, which I think is kind of unfortunate. It might be nice to change that up a little bit, but they are hit makers. The album includes tracks that are titled, for instance, Elizabeth Taylor, Ruin the Friendship, Cancelled, The Fate of Ophelia, and a title track collaboration with Sabrina Carpenter. All these tracks sound so annoying, Sarah. I just can't. Fans are guessing that the Ruin the Friendship song is going to be about her relationship with Blake Lively, who, by the way, say what you will about the girl, but Taylor abandoned her when she was going through probably a very difficult time while being on trial with Justin Baldoni. So, I don't know. The whole thing is just cringe to me. Obviously, so many metaphors and analogies here. She seems to be mimicking Ophelia on just the cover alone. Sarah, do you think it was time for Taylor to take a fucking break, or did we need another album so soon?
I don't think we need another album. I'm happy for the fans who want her music. And listen, Taylor Swift is a genre unto herself, right? And she is the only singer that people who are 90 know, as well as people who are 4, right? My daughter, every single week at her drama class, they would warm up to this song called Paper Rings by Taylor Swift. And she would child-splain how to sing it to me because I'd actually I really never heard that song. But it's actually pretty good. Anyway, there are different incarnations of Taylor, and there's stuff that I think strategically is more for the children to get them hooked young, and then there's stuff that's more for the grown-ups. She knows what she is doing. The woman is a genius, right? She knows what she is doing. And so I am excited to hear the one about Blake Lively. Okay, so I understand she abandoned Blake Lively at a vulnerable moment. At the same time, if I were Taylor Swift, the biggest star in the world, and someone in a text referred to me as one of Khaleesi's dragons, I would be like, I'm the main character. No, thank you. Right? So I feel like breaking up with your less famous friend because she had main character syndrome and you also have main character syndrome, this is delicious, right? Delicious that two people can't both be the main character the way they see it. I mean, and I think that that's telling. I feel like they both feel like they have to be the main character. I am actually going to read in even more because I know her fans love to read in that there is juice there.
She definitely knows how to play the game and get her fans really revved up. That's for sure. The other thing that I always think when I see just the track list alone, and mind you, I was a fan of this girl years before. I loved her earlier albums. I wasn't so annoyed by her whole shtick. What I find really frustrating is her music hasn't grown up with her. We are about the same age, and yet I feel like these tracks always sound so sexless and charmless and very immature. And I get it. She's making music for kids, but most pop stars don't do that. Most pop stars grow up. Sabrina Carpenter is on the album. I get it. They toured together. Sabrina's a big thing right now. But even Sabrina sings for an adult audience because she is an adult. Every pop star grows up. So does Olivia Rodrigo. So does Billie Eilish. They sing about mature things as they mature. Taylor has never done that. And just this track list alone tells me she's still not doing it. And again, I'm not even saying this as a hater. I just think she needs a little time to live life and write her music and maybe evolve a little bit because it's just the same stuff she's singing about again and again. And even the visuals are just not really cutting it for me. And why are we working with the same producers on your 12th album? Like, if there's no Jack Antonoff, I'm thrilled. But like, I just want to hear something a little bit different. And I think to get there, you need to live life a little bit as an artist. You cannot have a new album every 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months.
Fair enough. I mean, it sounds like that we've never heard Ruin the Friendship, that this is just bad blood again, right? Like, it
Yes,
sounds like I'm
exactly.
just writing the same. Like, I made a new friend so that we could have a new friend breakup. Having said that, I do think that what she's doing is shrewd because it's not music for kids, it's music for moms that they can listen to with their kids, right? So
Ooh.
if you are like, I've tried to listen to Chapel Roan with my daughter, and you have to be really strategic. They re-record Chapel Roan for children by
Wow.
other people because, like, I tried to listen to Phenomenon with her, and it's hard, right? Like, there's a lot
Yeah.
of adult stuff. So Taylor Swift is music where you can listen to it with your kids. They're not going to ask you any questions that are unexpected. They're not going to learn any words that their teachers don't want them to say in class. I do think it's a marketing decision. She's leaning into being music for moms. Like, you listened to her as a teen. A lot of those people have kids now, and they listen to it with their kids. So there's a nostalgia factor. It's the pop music version of Disney World. You can't just be for one generation. And so being a little bit less edgy, and maybe because of that, a little bit less original, and going back to the same well, is going to help you be a name for years and years and years. I think about somebody whom I love, like Barbara Streisand. She didn't really evolve, right? She gave us the same quality, amazing stuff. Barbara did evolve in her acting, but not in her music. Same thing with Celine Dion. Never really evolved in her music, right?
I guess so, but I think the difference is that they had so much depth in their music, like immense
Well, that's
depth. Yeah, like I mean, Celine and Barbara are actually two great examples of being adults and performing for adults. But I know what you mean in terms of evolution. I mean, Taylor's never going to be a Lady Gaga, right? Just give me something a little bit more to chew on. Because I think when she was younger, she did do that. It's just that she's been stuck inside that. She's been touring for all this time. She has this new big relationship. She's in front of the cameras more than she's ever been. I would think that would be so much great material. But I just know we're not going to get that deep with this music. But as you said, like, she has a specific audience and she knows what to do for them to make them keep listening. What does it matter if I'm listening or not? But I'm out for this one.
Well, I mean, I am too. But I mean, I feel like the next album is going to get juicy. The problem is she just has albums too often, right? She doesn't wait for a new stage of life. Like somebody like Adele waits to live life, right? And only does a new album when she has new experiences and new material. And her albums, every song's a winner, right? Because of that, right? Every song's a winner. And Taylor likes to be more prolific. You know, it's kind of like Shakespeare, right? Where some of his plays are masterpieces and some of them are not great because he just needed to make money, right? And he wanted to. So Shakespeare was the original capitalist artist. Like Shakespeare knew how to make money. And if I've had to read every Shakespeare play ever written for school, and most of them are great, and some of them are terrible, because sometimes Shakespeare's just like, you know what? Gotta make a check this week, right? So I mean, I'm not saying that she is on the same level of talent as Shakespeare, but I'm saying like art and commerce have always been one. And so I think that that's what she's doing here. But I mean, the next album, I don't know. Here's the thing. I do think eventually we will get a more mature Taylor. It's just she has been enjoying her youth, right? And she hasn't really gotten to another place. Like, you know, maybe next album we'll get like Taylor's song about IVF or whatever.
Well, that's why I say, like, you need to have more experience. I also think there's an overexposure element. That's a serious thing that musicians need to take into account. Like, I remember a while back when Maroon 5 was just never leaving us alone. And Adam Levine said, like, we're taking a long break, actually, because we are worried about overexposure. Like, you have to consider it. But at the same time, I feel that is just not something that exists in her world. And sure, she is always in the news, always in your Spotify. Like, she's just a different thing. And I don't know. I need a break personally. Actually, literally. Why don't we take a quick break right now? And then we'll jump into our next headline. And we're back. Next up, Amanda Knox is once again at the center of media attention with an upcoming Hulu limited series, The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox, co-produced by Knox and Monica Lewinsky. It premiered just last week. The 8-episode drama starring Grace Van Patten as Amanda revisits her wrongful convictions and exoneration in the 2007 Meredith Kircher case in an effort to humanize her story and reclaim her narrative. We're not going to get too deep into the details of that case right now. If you hadn't heard of it, I'm shocked. Go do a quick little read and then come back here. Now, predictably, quite a few folks are up in arms that the story is being dredged up again. I'm also pretty surprised. Critics have said the series favors style over substance, that it's glossing over the systemic failures that were involved with the case, and the media sensationalism that drove public perception, which to me is pretty wild if they're cutting that out because that was a big part of the story. But they've been saying it is from Amanda's perspective, therefore a lot is going to be lost. And I kind of don't really understand why we need that necessarily. It sounds like tonally it's all over the place. In an interview, Grace said that the show includes previously unreleased material, especially in the final episode, and emphasizes a factual retelling meant to dismantle the character that came to define Amanda. So, Sarah, tell me, what do you think? Is there a risk to bringing this show back? And is the fact that Monica Lewinsky is on board a green flag?
I mean, I love Monica. Listen to
too.
Reclaiming, her podcast. It's wonderful. She is a great conversationalist. I think Monica is in an era where she's learning a new craft. She's learning how to be a producer. And this is her, for the first time, producing scripted TV about someone else. She helped produce Impeachment or whatever it was called, the Ryan Murphy show about her scandal. I forget what it was called. So I'm giving her space to develop. I don't think everything she's going to do is going to be perfect right out of the gate. But this is a woman, in my opinion, who kind of had her 20s and her 30s stolen from her. So now she is learning how to do things that she would have learned earlier if she'd had the space to do that, right? And so she's starting a new career. If it's not an A+, that's okay. For me, I haven't watched the show yet. I've listened to, I mean, Amanda's been everywhere doing interviews, everywhere. She even did one with Barry Weiss. Like, this is how everywhere she is. Like,
Whoa,
yeah,
really?
people who I don't think share her politics, right? So I
Oh.
think she will just sort of be anywhere who will give her an hour. I mean, Amanda is very articulate. Her memoir is very upsetting, but I mean, I believe her. What happened to her is very upsetting. I'm with you that I don't know we needed the scripted version of the story when there have been so many documentaries, and she's also told us the story in her words in interviews, right? It's not like she was silent. And this is not a critique. There are some vile comments about how she just needs to go away. And I don't think that that's fair to say to somebody because they had this misfortune that they have to then be an anonymous person. If she always wanted to be a writer when she was growing up, she always wanted to share her opinions with the world. So to say you can't do that because you were wrongly convicted of murder in Italy, I think is disgusting. And when people call her like a fame whore, I think that that's gross too, because she's allowed to want to be a public person. Why does she have to be anonymous just because this happened to her? Anyway, I don't know if this is the right platform for her. I haven't watched it yet, but I am a little bit concerned because, in my opinion, it is very hard to do scripted true crime or even documentary true crime well. Right? It has to be salacious to get people to keep watching. There is this money motive, and the money motive makes people skew more towards entertainment. The facts often get changed. It's really upsetting. So I didn't know this person well, but I did know her, and she was very lovely. I went to the London School of Economics with Kim Wall, the journalist who was horribly murdered on a submarine. And, she was somebody who was a pleasant acquaintance. I was not close with her. I was very upset when she died because, I had followed her career and I did know her. And then I did consume the media about her because there was a lot of it. And even when people try, it is very, very difficult to tell these stories without thinking about how to make it commercial. And so I do think this is a very difficult thing to do. So I'm surprised Monica Lewinsky wanted to do this. I am surprised. But I do think she feels a kinship with Amanda Knox as kind of the millennial version of her, right? The millennial woman who received the same, I mean, it's not the same level of press scrutiny because no one has received the same level of press scrutiny as Monica Lewinsky. But I think it's the closest thing. So I think she was kind of being a protector and wanted to give voice to that experience. But I don't know what value this is adding. What about you? Did you watch it?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I love true crime, and I've taken in a lot of Amanda Knox. She not only had the book, but she had the Netflix doc where she shared her perspective. It just felt weird. Let's put it that way. She's been exonerated. She's out there, but it was years later that we're getting this tale again. I get that she wants everybody to know what the truth is, but I think when so much time has passed, it just feels like you are reliving this case for this family who lost their daughter. Like, I just don't get it. And then trying to place the blame on other people. And all of this has happened already. So for those people, I really feel for them because what is this doing for them? And I get Monica feeling like me and Amanda are so similar and she wants to reclaim her reputation. I get that. But I think she's done it already. I feel like Amanda needs to take a seat and maybe get a job and just live her life. And I don't need to hear this again and again. It's damaging for those families involved.
I agree with you. And I'm hoping, I haven't watched this yet. And one of the reasons I haven't watched it is the previous media, I felt like, and I understand to an extent why, but didn't really talk a lot about Meredith at all. Right?
Yeah.
She's sort of like, she's almost like a MacGuffin for the story, the way the stories are presented. And there is a young woman who was murdered, right? It is a tragedy that a young woman was murdered. And that is one thing that really upsets me when I consume it, because yes, I am very upset about what happened to Amanda. That is disturbing. It's equally disturbing that Meredith was raped and murdered. And that somehow
More
never
disturbing,
ends up,
right?
Yeah,
disturbing.
yeah. It never ends up in the equation. She is just treated like, the inciting force for another story. And I don't like how that story is marginalized. It really bothers me. And I know her family has said they've still for a long time. I don't know if they still do. For a long time, for some reason, they still thought Amanda was guilty. And I understand that must be very frustrating for Amanda. At the same time, I do wonder if Meredith's story were centered more in the narrative, if they might be willing to come around. I think like some of it might be just the emotional reaction to your kid dying and no one caring about the fact that she's dead. I think that there might be some of that there.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Although, again, I don't know how much more I want to know about her. But alas, it's happening. If you guys watch it, let us know what you think. Okay, moving on to our final headline of the week. This one's a quickie. This one's also pretty dark, Sarah. I warn you. Okay, so a woman called the Ketamine Queen has agreed to plead guilty to selling the drugs that killed Friends star Matthew Perry. Her real name is Josephine Sunga, and federal prosecutors have said her home was a, quote, drug-selling emporium where they found dozens of vials of ketamine during a raid. As a reminder, Matthew was found dead in a backyard jacuzzi at his LA home in October 2023, caused by the acute effects of ketamine. Josephine is one of 5 people, including doctors and his assistant, who officials say supplied the ketamine to him, exploiting his drug addiction and, of course, profiting for themselves. You know what I keep thinking with this, and I'm certainly not the first person to say it, but how much it reminds me of what happened to Michael Jackson, who also died because of an overdose thanks to drugs supplied by his doctor, who was also charged. There's other celebs who've followed the same trend. Sarah, isn't this like a very sinister pattern we've seen in Hollywood? Last week we were talking about Lindsay Lohan and how there needs to be an advocate just solely dedicated to a child star on their team. What kind of advocate do stars of this age and of this era need?
It's really hard. And I mean, I know for a long time, Matthew Perry's dad looked out after him and was his advocate. But he was almost too big to fail. I really recommend his memoir because he has a really upsetting sequence where he kind of explains how it was kind of like the height of his addiction when he was still in his 30s. And I think they were optimistic that maybe with the right treatment and long enough treatment, they could help him. Yeah. And they pulled him out of rehab for the episode of Friends where Chandler marries Monica because they just couldn't write around it, right? They just couldn't do it. They had to pull him out. His father was really upset. I was just like, my kid needs medical attention. Like, my kid needs to be in rehab. Like, what are you doing? But so many people's jobs were riding on this. So many advertising dollars for a TV network were riding on this. This was the big episode of the season. This was the fulfillment of one of the most important arcs on the show. And they didn't care. They stopped seeing him as a human, right? It was just, he had to come out of rehab. I mean, I have no idea. He doesn't say that they gave him drugs on set or anything, but like part of me wonders, like, how would he have, like maybe something like that
Ooh.
might have happened. And I know that has happened to other celebrities, right? I
Yeah.
mean, his whole addiction began because he was filming Fools Rush In and they had to give him drugs so he could do a scene. They had to give him
Oh my God,
painkillers so
really?
that he could do so he could do a scene. They were like, well, we have to stay on schedule, and so they gave him painkillers, and that's how his painkiller addiction started. So
Oh my God. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
I mean, it's an old school Hollywood story. His memoir it's very candid, it's very well written. He was definitely somebody who's a really great storyteller and was very introspective, thought a lot about his life. And one thing that really impresses me is he doesn't have any bitterness, or he didn't, because now he's passed away so tragically, but he didn't have any bitterness towards the people who pulled him out of rehab to film that episode, right? And really meddled with his recovery. He seems to understand it was a different time, right? Because there was always this attitude, I think, with the Friends executives that, he was irresponsible, right? That was why he was getting in these situations. He was irresponsible. He was troublesome. He had no self control. And there was, even at that time, it was pretty recent, less awareness about addiction as an illness,
Yeah.
right? Illness that anyone can have, especially someone who, everything's riding on them. So maybe they take more painkillers than they're supposed to, so they don't upset a filming schedule, right? It is really easy when you are that important to end up being addicted to drugs. I mean, JFK got addicted to drugs when he was president, right? Because
Yeah.
the president needs to get up in the morning and make decisions and can't take a sick day. Right. So I do think that a lot of his story is tied up in capitalism. It's a really upsetting story. I mean, the story of drug addiction so often coincides with the story of capitalism. And that's something we don't talk about that often, right? It so often coincides with people having to go back to work too soon. So abusing
Mm.
painkillers, things like that. I shouldn't say abusing, using painkillers, right? Because it is a drug use disorder, and they are using them because they are in certain situations where they don't necessarily have other tools that they can use.
I totally agree with you. I think it's another example of how a lot of the time when you're in Hollywood, actors are seen a little bit as products, not just by
Uh-huh.
the fans, but by the people who are behind the camera and who have to make things move. And as you said, Friends, that was the biggest sitcom forever. He was such an
Uh-huh.
essential star for it. So, and here's this huge episode. I mean, TV doesn't really function like that anymore, but at the time it was everything. You can't really imagine how they would have moved forward. But you're right, because at that point, they're choosing him, the product, over him, the person. And
Uh-huh.
we see this with
Uh-huh.
athletes a lot too. Athletes are put through so much hell and torture, especially football players. I mean, listen, you'd be surprised how many football players are out there playing on the field with whole brain injuries.
Yep.
It's pretty terrifying, but it's because we value the spectacle more than the person. And sure, yeah, they're making millions of dollars, they're very wealthy, they're famous, but like there is a price that is being paid, and we keep comparing it to these high level people, but everyday people have the same thing, right? Like
Uh-huh.
if you just have to make it to your work at the office, if you have to do whatever your everyday gig is, there's plenty of addicts around us who have the same difficult things they're dealing with, if not more difficult, right? Because you can't pay for all that help all the time. It's a
Uh-huh.
different kind of thing, it's a different kind of access, but yeah, I think we're still at a place where people also don't see addiction as a disease, as you pointed out, Sarah. So maybe that's one part of it, but it's very dark. It makes me very sad. And I think also what's interesting is that this bit of news isn't getting that much attention, really. And I feel like it should. I remember when the Michael Jackson situation was playing out, because it took so many years for
Uh-huh.
that doctor to be caught out, that also ended up being a little downplayed. And I think that's really unfortunate. We should assess what happened in the end. We shouldn't bury that.
Another thing that recently upset me regarding Matthew Perry, and I don't want to be too critical of Jennifer Aniston because she
Oh,
lost a friend and a
yeah.
colleague, and I do think she has a lot of talent. In many respects, I think she's actually in many ways an underrated comic actress. I actually think
Oh,
she's quite innovative, but she said that she mourned Matthew Perry while he was still alive. And that
yes.
attitude a lot of people have, where we treat drug use disorder like a death sentence, like the person's already
Oh,
dead, is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't get sober, because we kind of just give up on them. And I
yeah.
understand it can be hard, but I don't know if we need comments that perpetuate that perception that once someone's addicted to drugs, it's over. Like, there are new
Mm.
treatments that are coming out that are really actually helping people. And if we publicize those and normalize those, that's a really good thing. So that really upset me. It kind of just, that was the narrative when in the 90s. And that was one of the reasons why I think people didn't take his recovery seriously. They're just like, well, we have him for as long as he's alive. Let's film this episode. Well, but I actually think that is kind of the perception, right? I think it's kind of like you expect rock stars and TV stars with drug problems to die young, right? Like that's kind of, and then he did, but it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think we need to normalize that people can recover, especially now that we have new treatment protocols. Anyway, that's just my take. I don't want to be too critical of Jennifer Aniston there and how she feels, but that did really bother me and it got a lot of press, that comment.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I saw that this week too. I guess a part of it too is just saying, well, his personality is not what it used to be. I don't see the other Matthew that I used to see, but you're right. That deserves way more empathy, actually, because then you're also just thinking about your relationship to them when it really should be just them, the individual. Why are they slipping away? How can we help them? They had the money, they had the ability, but sometimes, you know, you can only do so much. That person also needs to want to be helped and to want to change. You can only bring them so much support at the end of the day, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, that is this week's episode. Thank you to all of our listeners. We love you so much. If you don't listen to The Reheat every week, you really should. You can find us for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear more from me, you can find me at _Sadaf Hassan. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on Instagram at @ZahiSarah. And if you liked this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe so other listeners can find us too. Also, if you would like us to keep growing, we would really love for you to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat, where we've got some goods in store for you. Thanks for listening.